Okay, here we go. This is practice 15C, and we're going to be using this as a precursor to titration, which we're going to start next week, and it's going to get kind of crazy, so keep a handle on these calculations as well as you can. Alright, this question is asking us how many milliliters of a 1.65 molar solution of sodium hydroxide contain 0.495 moles of sodium hydroxide. Alright, clearly it's going to be asking us for milliliters, and that means that we're going to want to find volume. So the only equation that we have that is set up to find volume is this one. So we're going to use that one because even though it wants milliliters, we don't really have an equation that's going to give us milliliters. We do have one that does liters. So we're going to say liters is equal to moles over molarity. It tells us that we have 0.495 moles, and it tells us that our molarity is 1.65. So I'm going to plug the molarity in here, and I'm going to plug moles in here. So we've got 0.495 moles, and our molarity is 1.65 molar. And let's remember that molarity is what you get when you divide moles by liters. So when you do that, your moles are going to cancel, and it's going to leave your answer in liters in volume, which is what we want. So I'm going to do this because it's not quite the answer, but we're close. And we're going to say 0.495 divided by 1.65, and this is 0.3 liters. Now this would be the answer, except it's specifically asking us for milliliters. And here's this little piece of information that we have, and it tells us that 100,000 milliliters is equal to 1 liter. So to get this into milliliters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more step, and I'm going to ask how many milliliters is the equivalent of 0.3 liters. Here's what I know. That if you're going from milliliters to liters or liters to milliliters, the equivalent is that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. Or if you're using your conversion of metric units, if you still have yours, it says that 1 milli of anything is 0.001 of that thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 0.3, I'm going to multiply it by 1, I'm going to divide it by 0.001, and liters is going to cancel, leave my answer in milliliters, and we get 300 milliliters. Or, since there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter, you can just multiply your 0.3 liters by 1,000, and you get 300. Let's see this next one. It's asking how many moles of lithium hydroxide would be needed to make 500 milliliters of 1 mole of lithium hydroxide solution. The only equation we have that tells us how to find moles is this one. Moles is equal to molarity times liters. And if we know that moles is equal to molarity times liters, well, we're pretty close. We've got a molarity here, 1 molar. We don't have a volume in liters, but we do have a volume in milliliters. And if I remember, sorry about that, if we remember that 1,000 milliliters is the equivalent of 1 liter, we can get this 500 milliliters into liters pretty easily. So I'm going to ask how many liters is equal to 500 milliliters. And what we know is that when you're going from milliliters to liters, you can either say 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters, or you can say 1 milliliter is equal to 0.001 liters. So that means we're going to take 500 and we're going to multiply it by 0.001, or same thing as divide by 1,000. This is 0.5 liters. So now we've got a volume, and we've got a molarity. I'm going to plug those in, and I'm going to say moles is equal to molarity, 1 molar, times volume, 0.5 liters, and this question is, the answer to this question is 0.5. moles of lithium hydroxide. Okay? All right, this one's pretty involved because it's asking what volume. There's really only one equation we have that will get us volume, and that one looks like this. Liters is equal to moles over molarity. Well, we don't have moles and we don't have molarity. We've got a mass of HCl and we've got a pH of 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 0.06 grams of HCl and I'm going to get this into moles. I'm going to do that the way we've been doing it since chapter 3. How many moles of HCl is 0.06 grams of HCl? We know from our periodic table that the molar mass of HCl is 37 grams. So I'm going to say 0.06 divided by 37. This is 0.0016 moles of HCl, and that's going to go right here on the top. 0.0016 moles. Now we got to get molarity, and how are we going to do that from a pH of 3? What we know is from chapter 14 that H plus is equal to antilog of the negative pH. Well, this pH is 3, so I'm going to say antilog negative 3, and this is a concentration of H plus, that is 1 times 10 to the negative 3. And because we know we're getting this from HCl, and we know that HCl doesn't have any coefficients or subscripts, that this 1 times 10 to the negative third molar H plus is coming from 1 times 10 to the negative third molar HCl. So now we have our molarity, 1 times 10 to the negative third. And remember that molarity is simply moles over liters. So I'm going to say 0.0016 divided by 1 times 10 to the negative third. And I get 1.6 liters. Quite a lot going on in that one, but all stuff you know how to do. Finally, how many grams of solid sodium hydroxide would be necessary to make 2 liters of a 3 times 10 to the negative third molar solution of sodium hydroxide? Okay, and so it's asking for grams of solid sodium hydroxide. I don't have any equations that's going to give me grams, but I do have an equation that's going to give me moles. So I'm going to say moles is equal to molarity times volume. Well, we have a molarity, 3 times 10 to the negative third. And we have a volume. Our volume is 2 liters. So I'm going to plug these things in, and what I get is 6 times 10 to the negative third moles of sodium hydroxide. I'm just going to double check to make sure I did that right. And so when we do this, now we have moles, but it's asking us specifically, it's asking us for grams. How many grams of solid sodium hydroxide? So we're going to have to add a step to this, and we're going to ask how many grams of solid sodium hydroxide would be the equivalent of 6 times 10 to the negative third moles of sodium hydroxide. What we know is that the molar mass of sodium hydroxide is 23 plus 16 plus 1 is 40 grams. So we're going to say 6 times 10 to the negative third times 40, and this is the mass of solid sodium hydroxide, 0.24 grams. That took me a little over 9 minutes, so not too bad. All right, all this stuff's going to be on the quiz tomorrow, so study and good luck.